Hello everyone and welcome to another video. A few weeks ago, a viewer of this channel left this comment saying, "Could you make a video of how you got started with all this? Did you get scammed before or then trying to scam you? Then decided to warn. I think it might be interesting what got you into scam baiting." So, to celebrate 2,000 subscribers, I decided to make this video and tell you where it all started. Way back in 1999, I decided to retrain as an IT teacher and teach computing to adults. In the early 2000s, I started running a series of workshops for local voluntary sector organisations. The workshops were actually called Keep Safe on the Net, and look, I found one of the original handouts. It's hard to remember that 20 years ago there were people who didn't know that you needed antivirus software on your computer. Things were changing fast. I ran the workshop, I think, 3 times a year, and every time I ran the workshop, I had to rewrite the handout, and every time I rewrote the handout, the voluntary sector organisation that I was running the workshop for had to reprint it. So back in 2005, I registered the domain name keepsafeonthenet.co.uk, and the idea was that I uploaded all the handouts to the website so that participants in the workshop could go back and download the handouts. After another couple of years, the workshops came to an end and I was left with the domain name. So I decided to turn it into an AntiScam blog. This is the first entry, at least it's the first post that's left on their blog. There might have been others before that, I really don't remember, but the first post on there now is from November the 30th, 2008. In those days, most of the scams were either fake texts or fake emails, and at one point the blog became really popular. I didn't have much competition in those days, and I used to get inquiries from the press and magazines, and lots of people used to email me content. And it wasn't long before people started leaving comments telling how they had fallen victim to scammers, or asking if the emails that they'd received were genuine. It's long been the belief that the stereotypical scam victim is a middle-aged white woman, and while that might be true in many cases, it very quickly became clear to me that many of the victims were from poorer countries where English wasn't their first language, and so they were unable to spot how poorly written the scams were, or which bits were copied and pasted and which bits were written by the scammers. It was also apparent that several of the victims wanted the scams to be true, such as this comment where the author says, "I want dream rich," or these 2 comments that were left on the blog while I was making this video. One of which says, "It says I won $1 million US, I'm in it to win it, and God, I need this miracle. Dear God, please let this be true." Sadly, I had to reply to the author and tell them not to send any money. This was one of the saddest stories that I was sent by a reader who told me that her vulnerable sister had sold her home in order to make funds to send to a romance scammer. I added content to the site on a regular and sometimes not very regular basis for many more years, and it was during this time that the first of my online alter egos, Annie, was born. She would sometimes reply to emails to see what the scammers said, but its popularity started to wane. To be honest, I simply lost the motivation for keeping the site design up to date, and if you look at it now, it's very dated and in dire need of a complete overhaul. And then one day, in September 2020, I woke up and thought, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. Literally, that was it. I'm a very impulsive person. I didn't spend any time planning what I was going to do. I simply thought, I'll start a channel and see what happens. So I started the channel, and on it I made little videos about all the kind of stuff that was on Keep Safe on the Net. You know, all the boring stuff that nobody's really interested in, to be honest. Fake bank emails, fake PayPal emails. And then in December, I was contacted by a romance scammer, so I decided to reply and see what happened. And that was when I made the first romance scam video. I followed that with a video made from the comments that victims of romance scammers had left on Keep Safe on the Net over the years. And you can see clearly from this screenshot that that's when this channel started getting attention. I carried on making the occasional traditional Keep Safe on the Net style video and you can see from this screenshot that people never really were very interested in those. What really started the channel were these two videos. The bottom one is the tale of the fake famous musician, and the top one on this screenshot is 10 ways to spot a romance scammer, and to this day that's this channel's most popular video. Not long after I'd set up the channel, a friend pointed out that the channel needed a proper identity, and I needed to make some proper channel art. And so the blue backgrounds with little cartoons on were born. And then, a few months ago, I decided I needed to raise my game when another friend showed me a video that she'd watched showing how good quality photographs and proper titles for the videos encouraged YouTube to recommend them to viewers. Once I'd realised that romance scam videos were what the viewers wanted, in fairly quick succession the other three characters were born. So along came Celia, Serafina, and Denise, of course. They all have their own photos, which come from a website called thispersondoesnotexist.com. They all have their own Facebook accounts. They all have their own Gmail addresses. And I have 5 different web browsers on my laptop, one for me and one for each of the characters, in an attempt to try not to get too confused. I started with fairly short videos, and I soon realised that for the romance scams, people prefer the longer videos. I understand that because it means that you get more into the story. Although I don't usually consider the length when I'm making the videos, I'm more concerned about telling the story. Partway through 2021, it became the fashion for the scammers to try and call you, either on video or on audio, and I took to recording the calls. For me, that makes the scams more interesting because you actually get to hear the scammer. And more recently, I've been using screen recording software, which seems to record the sound better, and also, if the scammer does accidentally or intentionally turn on their camera, then you can see them. And also, if they play you one of their fake videos, you can see that. The sense of humour that I put into the videos is exactly the same sense of humour that I used to use when I was teaching the adult classes. It was very interesting. About 90% of my students appreciated it and thought I was very funny. And the other 10% used to look at me as if I'd gone completely mad, and you could see they were wondering where on earth they'd come to. Having paid for the course, most of them decided to stay anyway. Now that the channel's getting more popular, people have been emailing me their stories of how they fell victim to scammers, just as they did on the blog. And I know that viewers appreciate these stories. One thing I hadn't realised before I started the channel was just how lovely it is to see people commenting. I read every single comment that's left, and I appreciate the community that people are building up in the comments. Where will the channel take me in the next 12 months? I don't know the answer to that. We'll have to wait and see. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it, please share it, please comment down below, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again in another video.